Good morning, everyone. My name is Bob Tanner. I'm the Executive Director for the Ohio Federal Research Network. Appreciate you joining us this morning. And we've got a nice program here that will help you understand the Round 5 pre-release document that's out. It's, of course, on our website, so it's available for a deeper review. And we take questions throughout this process, as well as throughout the day and in the weeks leading up to the full release in January. So today we're going to give you an overview of the OFRN, as well as an overview of the Round 5 solicitation, and then give you some information on the training process. We've got a team of OFRN members that are going to help with that training exercise. So stay tuned for all of this if you're able to. And I think we're ready to go, Becky. So there's the agenda. I just ran through that briefly. Let's go to the next slide. So there's probably a number of you out there that may not be familiar with the Ohio Federal Research Network. So I'll give you a quick overview. This is an organization created in 2015 to stimulate Ohio's innovation economy. And that's really done in a couple of different ways. One, it's really making sure that Ohio's research universities, its federal labs like AFRL, NASA Glenn, NAMRU-D, that those research organizations and our federal labs, along with industry, work together to solve technology problems, to advance their own individual agendas and strategies. It was believed that those three sectors, government, academia, and industry, could do a little bit more to learn how to work together, frankly, and try to break out of their respective domains and collaborate with some of the other technology opportunities that exist in Ohio. So that vision was really created to facilitate these team building exercises. One of the ways we do that is through these competitive solicitations like Round 5. There have been 4 previous solicitations that do that, and we are now entering into Round 5. But this has proven to be a great way to pull these industry partners together. The output of all of that is ultimately we're advancing technology, we're commercializing technology, and we're setting the stage for additional federal investment into Ohio based on these collaborations and strategies that evolve from OFRN programs. Slide. So specifically, these are the categories that we focus on. As I mentioned, it's a matter of leveraging the federal and university research assets. We also are focused on training universities and industry partners on how to pursue additional federal funding. And we'll have a little bit of that today, but it's really giving folks the expertise that our team has. There's probably, I think I added it up with the team, and we're somewhere between 100 and 150 years of experience working on DoD-related solicitations and agency solicitations and opportunities. So the training there is to help all the participants and to grow Ohio's capability in those areas. And then certainly, the output of these efforts can be spin-out organizations that come out of the technology development. And then those are organizations that are creating jobs for Ohio. And again, just putting Ohio in a leadership role relative to all of these technology areas and advancing the civil aviation, national defense, and space missions that our federal labs have. Slide. So this is a slide of some of the partners that we've been working with. Again, I think every university in the state has been involved in some form or fashion. You see a list of them there. There's a list of our federal partners. They've been great to work with, and I think are very appreciative of the OFRN program and what it's done to advance their interest. You'll see down there we've got to date some 8 spin-out organizations that have been created as a result of previous OFRN programs. Slide. So these are some the metrics that we are tracking. The initial investment of $40 million has allowed us to fund some 28 projects to date. I think we're well over $200 million in follow-on funding. That's probably not been updated since Agility Prime. Some of you are familiar with the Air Force Agility Prime campaign, and there were a number of OFRN project awardees that were successful in winning some of the Air Force Agility Prime awards. So that number continues to grow significantly. Some 900 plus jobs created, 12 IP disclosures to date, again, the spin outs. And, you know, at this point, I think we've got well over 5 million in VC money or other investments that have resulted from these OFRN projects. Slide. So this is just a slide to share some of the projects in the last rounds 3 and 4. So the colored arrows there in the center represent the projects that were awarded round 3. The 6 to the right of that are the round 4 projects. And there was a significant focus in the UAS area, which you can see by virtue of some of these projects. And right now I can tell you these technologies are being deployed in projects across the country. There's several projects and project teams working in national projects. They've connected with the FAA. They're working on some UAS strategies with the FAA. So that's really another aspect of our mission, is to take these projects and ensure that they actually find national recognition and profile and become relevant in some of the national strategies that the FAA and DOT have right now. Slide. So this is a little closer look into the round 5 process. Again, all of this detail is on the website contained within the solicitation, but these are the highlights. You need to have an Ohio industry member. We've had some questions. Can that be a national company? Certainly it can be if they have an Ohio office, and that Ohio office is fulfilling a significant portion of the project scope. 2 Ohio colleges, universities. So that's 2-year, 4-year, but you'll need 2 of those. And then a federal partner, and the federal partner exercise, that's aligning with them, contacting them, and there's information on how you do that to make sure your technologies align with one of the AOIs, one of the 11, actually one of the 12, the 12th being an open topic, but it still must have alignment with the federal partners. So that's sort of the 3 major criteria that you've got to be able to satisfy in order to submit a proposal. Slide. So what we've done with this round is try to make it a little more workable, not so burdensome. So we've taken down the requirement or lessened the page count for the technical proposal. Volume 1 is an 8-page technical paper. Volume 2 is a supplement to that. You're talking about your commercialization. And again, the criteria is in the solicitation. And then from there, we will evaluate those proposals and down select to a volume 2 cost proposal and a 15-slide deck that is presented in person to the technical review committee. Again, trying to make this similar to some of the DoD processes, the Air Force processes that exist, not making it too burdensome, but giving you folks an opportunity to detail all of your technologies and present those in a way that is compelling. And that's something we also try to help you with. So there'll be some training in that regard. Slide. So something we've added this round is a student experience engagement initiative. This was really brought out by our federal partners in their quest to ensure that students are involved in these programs. This is a great learning experience for a student. They get to see not only how the technology is created, formulated, commercialized, but how businesses react to that technology, how the DoD is involved. I mean, it's a great opportunity for students to see every aspect of a project, from laboratory to commercialization and to market. And we think that everyone should figure out how to best incorporate a student experience into the program. So there's a single page on this. It's really just giving you the parameters or the outlines for a program. We didn't want to be too prescriptive here. We want you to be creative and figure out how best to incorporate students into all aspects of this project and your technology. We're also going to have the bidders conference on the 20th. Of course, that's mandatory. There will be some proposal training that day, and my colleague Dave will mention that here in a little more detail. And then a follow-up pitch deck presentation with a mandatory training for that. And then should the teams want additional pitch training, we're going to make that optional, but we've got some experts that can assist in that regard. So that's really a unique part of the solicitation, and it takes a little bit of effort to think through how do you communicate from a technology that's perhaps complicated, but has to be relayed in an abbreviated fashion. That's more of an art than anything, and we can help you with that. So next slide, please. So there's the schedule of events, all the key dates. I don't think there's been any changes of late. You see, we'll have another regional workshop next week. And then the formal announcement comes out the 6th with the bidders conference on the 20th, and all the dates there remain intact. So you'll need to calendarize those and pay particular attention to those. And we'll continue to send out notices and reminding everybody as these dates come into play. Next slide. So the actual process here, again, stage 1 proposal, your volume 1 is submitted pursuant to the solicitation. Obviously, like all solicitations, read the details carefully. Certainly, if you have questions, we can assist you in that regard. The step 2 is the down select process and the pitch day, and that's presented to a technical review committee. This is a committee somewhere probably in the 8 to 15 number, and these are experts in various industries from across Ohio that lend their expertise to making evaluations on the projects. The OFRN team isn't, they're not voting in that. I'm not part of that. I don't vote in that, so I don't have any say in how these proposals are awarded. It's exclusively done through the TRC team. And then the TRC presents their recommendations to an executive review board, a smaller group, but a very experienced group with these sorts of programs and technologies. And then after that, we try to keep this thing moving quickly and making final decisions, and then do all we can to get the contracts awarded and get things started ASAP. So next slide. So the areas of interest, these are the 11 categories of the AOIs. There remains a fairly significant focus on vertical takeoff and landing vehicles, or eVTOLs and UAS. That's such a big and blossoming industry nationally, and Ohio is certainly involved in this. The federal partners continue to have mission opportunities and technologies that they want to grow in these areas. So that remains a focus, but we've opened it up a little bit beyond that to ensure that if there are other technologies that are right now relevant on a national platform, that this program would spur the development of those technologies. So you can see those throughout this list. There's detail behind each one of these in the solicitation. And, we did set up early on some engagement with the subject matter experts with each of the federal partners. I think that information has been recorded, is out there, and we can continue to provide linkages to our SMEs. And you can ask questions about those that we will then follow up. We won't have those SMEs on this session, but they are available for us to follow up should you have questions on specifics of each of these AOIs. And just a quick note, I think I mentioned on number 12, again, that's an open topic, but you still need to ensure that it has relevance with the federal partners, so you'd need to have some engagement with them. And we're not requiring that you have an LOI per se signed by them, but you do need to make sure you've got engagement. It can't simply be you talk to so-and-so and you've got a card, you picked it up at a webinar or a seminar somewhere. No, it really has to be a more engaged encounter, and you need to have acknowledgement from that federal partner that your technology is something that they see as relevant and addresses one of the AOIs. Next slide. So the training overview, I'm going to turn this over to Dave Nestick. He'll walk through all of this. Dave's done this. Some of you might be familiar with Dave. He's got many years of experience in doing this, and he and his team actually will provide the hands-on training. So Dave, I'll turn it over to you.
All right, thanks, Bob. Becky, I just think you can see my screen, Bob. If you guys want to verify, you should see the same slide 14. Also, there's been a couple questions in the Q&A. This is a great time. We're going to have a lot of time for Q&A, but as you get them, please put them in the Q&A area, and we might want to address a couple of the questions that are in there now, Bob, while it's fresh going through your section. There was one on the student internship part.
So the question is, does the opportunity involve undergrads for grad research? If I'm understanding, yes, indeed. It can be an undergraduate student, it can be a graduate student, but they need to be students enrolled in either a 2-year or 4-year program in the state of Ohio. So there's a question here regarding eVTOLs. Does the enabling technology such as 3D printing, additive manufacturing count under this category? And I would say that those are technologies that are relevant. Certainly they're related to the development of these new platforms and the materials used to build these new crafts. So I would say that it is. Again, I think you'd want to take a little deeper dive into what you are proposing, what your research area is, and have a conversation with one of the SMEs, with the federal partners. So, but yes, I would say generally those are relevant technologies. And with that, I think I'll go back to you, Dave.
All right, thanks, Bob. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the training and then also talk about some of the other features that we've added this round. The January 28th or the January 20th training is going to be on the technical volume, writing a white paper training. This is mandatory. It's going to be held in conjunction with the bidders conference, and that'll be on January 20th. So if you're going to put in your initial white paper, this is something that you're going to want to attend. After it goes through the down select, we'll have another mandatory pitch and pitch deck group training for everybody that's been down selected. And then after that, it's optional. it's up to you if you'd want to do it, but there you could have one-on-one pitch reviews and feedback. So we have someone lined up, Chris Mather, to help with that process. So the training overview real quick, the training topics for the technical volume, Burr Zimmerman will be handling that. It's going to summarize OFRN and the Round 5 RFP. So he'll look through the RFP, he'll make sure that he's hitting the relevant parts, and cover the technical volume components and the supplemental volume metrics and the merit review criteria. His intended outcomes are to frame the project, ensure completeness and responsiveness, and align better with the OFRN mission, vision, and goals. After that, and I'm going to ask Chris Lockhart to chime in here in a second, but we're also going to have some training topics on cost volume. And Chris, if you're there, if you can unmute, and if you've got any comments on the cost volume, he's going to be covering parts of the business proposal and the cost proposal and the changes from Round 4.
Yeah, thanks, Dave. I'm Chris Lockhart. I'm the Director of Contracts here at Parallax, and I was involved in Round 4. So the changes between Round 4 and Round 5, there aren't a whole lot other than just trying to adjust any kind of lesson learned that we may have had, but the same process of trying to prepare the awardees for the next step in the federal world. And so our cost and business proposal request is very much like what you would see from the federal government, where we're dealing with a cost reimbursement type grant here. So costs need to be sufficiently supported. We did one change to our indirect rate structure that we did. We got hung up a little bit on indirect rates on Round 4. Is we're going to take the same approach that the federal government does. So if you have approved rates, provide those. If you don't have approved rates, or you haven't even had them audited by a third-party accounting group, then use the de minimis 10% that you see on with federal grants. So we really want you to be boring. That was a quote I used to hear from an old deputy director that I worked with at the Department of Energy. Be boring, follow the exact format that we're looking for in Volume 2. We actually put a template together that will help with that process. So follow the template, and again, if you have any questions, submit them to the email address that we have, and we will post responses there and help with whatever we can to get you through that process. But again, is really trying to model what you'll see from the federal government perspective as you continue on with your projects. That's really all I have, Dave.
Thanks, Chris. Is there anything special that they have to think about in the technical volume for the white paper? Anything that gets submitted with that? That's
the only real connection that I have for the cost volume is that you put your statement of work in the business part of the Volume 2, and we do have an Excel spreadsheet that we want you to use to price out your proposal, and then provide a narrative that goes along with it, so we're able to understand your individual elements of cost. So
great. Thanks, Chris. And if you have any questions on that part, please put them in the Q&A. We go on from there to the 15-slide deck training. So this is, Chris is going to cover things like slide decks versus presentation decks. There's a difference. The proposal calls for your 15-slide deck and then a reduced deck, to go and in front of the technical review committee. It's going to cover the advantages of slide deck format. You offer on Round 5 deck requirements. There's certain required slides to be in the deck and certain formats in that. It's going to, Chris is going to give you some ideas about how to tell your story through your deck and some design tips for the deck and that. And we've found that, you know, that really does improve when people go through this process. And I do encourage, you know, those who make it through the white paper stage to do sign up for at least one review session for, you know, the presentations. So I want to talk about an extra feature that we put in this time. It's the team matchmaking. So round 5 requires 2 universities, 1 industry partner, and a federal partner that supports, you know, your proposal. This is just like the other rounds that we've had. You know, being in a virtual setup now, we don't have the ability to have a bunch of people together in a big conference room or a big you know, ballroom or something like that. So we have a facility on the website that enables you to go in and more or less put out like a classified that you're looking for a partner. So you might be looking for a partner to satisfy the requirements, or maybe even just to fill a technical gap. So I'm going to attempt to go live on our website to show you where to find this. So I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to reshare and see if we can make this this work so that I can walk you through which parts of the all right, now tell me we should see my screen. And this is the OFRN website. So it's ohiofrn.org. So you go to ohiofrn.org. And then under the current solicitation link, this is where you'll find the current solicitation. It's got all the key events and dates, you know, listed. And down at the bottom where you see team matchmaking form, this is where if you're looking for a partner, if you're a university researcher and you need another university involved, or if you need a company or you're a company and you need a couple universities involved and you're interested in getting into the program, click that. It'll take you to a form. You know, the form is just you fill out, you know, what you're looking for, a little bit about your organization, the type of partner you're looking for, which area of interest you're interested in, a brief explanation of your technology or your capabilities, and then a brief explanation of the technology and or capabilities that you're looking for. And then that goes into another sheet that we have on the back end, and we anonymize the information. So one of the things then that you do after that is this link over here where it says OFRN Round 5 Matchmaking Service Classifieds. This gets updated daily, and this form then is accessible online so that you can see who's looking for whom and what kind of partners are needed. So you can shop this classified and you can see if there's something that fits your capabilities or matches with your you know, desired proposal efforts, and let us know which ones you're interested in. Like you might be interested in number 28 here. You know, get an email to Becky and say, please connect me with number 28, and Becky will create the introduction and put the 2 of you together. So we've used this in another program called Apex, and it's worked really well. I know in the last round for the SBIRs for the Air Force, we made over 180 connections across the United States. And this has already you know, resulted in a number of connections so far. So please use this. It'll help, you know, get that, you know, get you connected and complete your team, and that's it. I think my slides are complete at that point. Let me bring back up. So that's I just went through the team matchmaking, and I believe that's it. Close with the contact information. So back to you, Bob.
Great. Thanks, Dave. We've had a number of questions coming in. I'm doing my best to respond to those. So people keep sending them. We're going to be able to answer a few more as we proceed through this. But I guess, Dave, there's one question. I've seen it come up a couple of different ways. Eligibility for other Afworks related projects. If people have pursued other proposals and maybe had awards or haven't had awards, can you speak to that and explain how that works?
Well, the one thing, I mean, you can't get paid twice for doing the same thing, you know, so, you know, you need to be putting in a unique statement of work. But it's a benefit, you know, that, you know, if your technology has progressed some under another Afworks award or something, this is a good program to get into to then progress it a little further even. What we found usually though, is people will go through OFRN first, develop some technology, develop some partnerships, and then approach Afworks or one of the other agencies for an SBIR to further it. You know, we've seen some go through OFRN and then be in a good position because they've gotten connections inside the Air Force, go for direct to phase 2s in the SBIR program. So then you can layer, you know, 750 to 1.5 million of OFRN money, and then layer another 750 or more on top of that with a direct to phase 2. So you want to, you know, you want these things to be additive and not duplicative of your efforts. I don't know if that answers it, but
I think that should cover it. And if the individual thinks they've got follow-on questions, they can submit those, or we'll be available for additional information.
mm-hmm.
Couple of questions on connecting with the federal partners and the SMEs. So those are contacts that we have, and we're building that process out so that we can get you connected. As you might imagine, the SMEs are extremely busy with their day-to-day activities, and we've committed to them that we'll monitor that process and try to help them organize the engagement. You just can't have everybody calling them all hours of the day. You know, that's pretty disruptive, but we're certainly able to assist in that and get you connected right to the folks that help draft these AOIs. I'm looking through questions here.
There's one on the research hospitals, Bob, which I think this time, you know, the industry partner could be a for-profit or a nonprofit industry partner. So I would think that a research hospital would fit into that if it's not associated with a university already.
Yeah. Obviously an Ohio organization or hospital, but yeah, and I think there's some AOIs that might draw on some of that research. So good question.
There's a comment in there for Chris Lockhart if he's still on the line. Chris, somebody is saying the indirect rate is way too low. Our DOE SBIR permitted 53% plus. Do you have any comment on that, Chris?
We're following the same direction that you would see in a regular federal grant scenario. So if you have an approved indirect rate, or it's been audited in some kind of way, then that's the alternative to it.
Mm-hmm.
Preferred alternative. So
and there's a question for the matchmaking spreadsheet link. I don't know.
Yeah, it's under the link to the team matchmaking spreadsheet. You'll find under the list of resources on the current solicitation page, and it's OFRN matchmaking classifieds. You know, we were talking this morning about making that a more prominent link, you know, so that you can see it better, but you have to look through the resource links now to get to the team matchmaking classifieds.
And there's a question here, are you able to apply to multiple areas of interest with different teaming arrangements? And yes, that's fine.
There are some that are going into the chat as well as the Q&A, Bob. So one of them is, if a small business wants to commercialize AFRL patent, would that be appropriate for this solicitation? I don't see why not. You know, if you have rights to the patent and the technology, that it be included as part of the, you know, what you're proposing. There's another one that says, does team matchmaking form allow for someone who is looking to be added to a team rather than be the lead organization? Yes. You know, if you want to just be part of a team, you know, and put yourself out there, you're able to do that.
Here's a question, is the purpose of the C program solely for introducing students to the experience and getting their feet in the door? It certainly has that benefit. It gets students introduced, but I think you would also want to give the students a established role or substantive role in the engagement. Just for them to come in and stand in a lab and monitor something, I don't think is going to be sufficient. You really need to have them engaged, it's action learning, and anything that can give them, you know, that hands-on experience, I think is a good thing. And then, you know, what that does is the student gets to understand and appreciate what goes into that technology. Is that something they're still interested in? It gives them an understanding of how the organizations work, and you potentially become eligible for employment with one of these organizations or one of these sectors. So it's a little more than just introducing a student and getting them familiar generally to OFRN and these statewide collaborations, if that helps. Let's see. The federal labs do need to be Ohio federal labs, federal partners. So saw that question in there. Becky, looks like you may have answered or had more detail on that.
Oh, no, I don't have more detail.
Okay.
Bob, it says under AOI 12, which is the other category, can you please discuss the requirements for federal partners and how does one go about showing their support?
Yeah, so it's frankly like any other technology, any other AOI, you're going to have a briefing. It can be a one-pager. You'll have to have something that you can share with the federal partner SME so that you can communicate what it is you're proposing to do, and that they will have some input on that technology. Is it relevant to their missions? Is it something that they hadn't thought about and would like to see more development on or see it explored further? So it's just part of that engagement exercise. You're going to have something that's fairly well developed. This is not just an idea. It needs to be fairly along, commensurate with other AOI processes and criteria. We've always said TRL3 and above is the focus. So,
I mean, one thing I can suggest for AOI 12, Bob, is the other AOIs are have some definition behind them, and it might be easier to locate a point of contact within one of the labs because of that. AOI 12 being kind of open. One facility that could help is there's a site now called Airforcetechconnect.org, and if you've got it enables you to put in you know, your suggested technology or your idea into, you know, this into a website that the information goes on the other side of the fence at AFRL, and it gets you connected up to somebody within AFRL that would have an interest in your technology. You know, so it's one way that if you don't have a current connection within, you know, one of the federal labs, that's one potential pathway to gaining a contact.
Point, Dave. And there's a question here. They would like to work as a government contractor. Who should they contact to mentor them? Is that something that's done through the matchmaking? And I guess if your question is just generally you want to be a government contractor, there are lots of sites out there that can help you do that. I mean, the Air Force Small Business Office, others are really, they have robust websites to help you get familiar with the process. But I don't mind if you want to send a separate email. You know, we can kind of point you in the direction of some of those resources. But you know, that unless you're specifically looking to engage on one of these projects and build a team, you know, that's a little different exercise. I'm still willing to assist you, but it's a little different process than the OFRN Round 5 process and engagement strategies.
There's another follow-up to the research hospital question. So follow up on my question about research hospitals. As far as I know, most of the research hospitals are affiliated with research universities. In this case, do they still count as nonprofit industry partners? You know, I don't have a, you know, a direct answer for that, other than if you're affiliated with a university, you could count as a university partner. So I'm not sure why you'd want to be as an industry partner unless there's, you know, some other reason. But you might want to connect with us, you know, outside this to get a better feel for what you're looking to do.
Yep. We saw a question suggesting previous rounds were focused on specific projects or technologies. Is this round any different? I guess I'd say yes and no. Yes, it's different in that there are some categories that aren't necessarily focused on UAV or UAS. So, you know, the aperture's been opened up a little bit, but you know, are we looking for specific capabilities and technologies? I mean, I think again, you want to have something that the federal labs see as valuable, and you know, I think looking at the specific AOI and the detail underneath it, if your technology fits one of those, you're on your way. And I think, you know, a follow up with the federal partner and the SME is going to give you answers there. But you know, generally to just say, is it relevant to a specific category? You know, yes, it's those 11 that we've identified and the detail behind them. So.
In the chat, there's a question, Bob. Many of the previous proposals are aimed at a specific project or product. To what extent is this year's effort open to a capability that might apply to a broad range of federal requirements? I mean, you know, it's open. I mean, there is the 12 other category if it doesn't fit into one of the previous 11 for one. you know, so long as it's got support of the one of the federal labs in Ohio, it's good. But the other thing is when I read this, and I can follow up with Ross afterwards if he wants, but if you've got a, you know, if you're looking at a broad range of federal requirements, maybe you've got 2 proposals that you could put in. You know, maybe you have multiple statements of work to take a platform technology and apply it to, you know, 2 different applications. Just not sure where you're going with that, but it could be worthwhile talking about.
I see some questions relative to U.S. persons, citizenry. I mean, if the technologies, you need to be familiar with ITAR. You need to be familiar with all of those sorts of restrictions on citizenship, export controls. Those are all relevant. I think there's sections that if they're not identified in the solicitation currently, they will be soon. Those are part of the contract terms that Chris has prepared, but they'll be similar to past rounds in that regard. So
one question was, do we have to have a federal partner established before the January 20th training? Or is this white paper training going to educate us on how to make that connection properly? That's not the subject matter of the training, and you don't have to have the federal partner established before January 20th, but you do by the time that you put in the white paper. You know, so your white paper should include, you know, the discussions that you had with your federal partner. Results of that, you know, just information that would show that you do have somebody inside one of the federal labs that supports what it is you're proposing. One was, how is Ohio Aerospace Institute collaboration viewed, as a federal lab or an industry partner? Since it's a nonprofit and it's not really a federal lab, it would be an industry partner. I would suggest too that Ohio Aerospace Institute, though, would potentially be able to assist with connections inside NASA and maybe even AFRL.
I see a question here on the C program, and you, if I'm understanding it, you certainly have to have an idea of the program that you're proposing and how the student would be engaged. You don't have to have hired the student. You don't have to have, frankly, picked the student. You have to create a program that then, if you were to be selected, you could fulfill that with a student, and you can do that through, you know, your connections. There will be resources that we'll make available, but at least at the proposal stage, you are proposing how you would develop a student experience in the execution of the project.
If I go up to the top of the Q&A list, Bob, there's a good question about what's the best way to connect with the SME for various AOI. We'd like to connect with them to determine if our technology is a good fit. Where are we on being able to get out contact information for the AOIs?
Yeah, Becky, I might ask you to give us an update on that list. She's been soliciting all of the contact information from the various SMEs. We've got a number of them, and I think just wanting to make certain that we get the right contact info. Is that something that's ready for dissemination, Becky, or do we need more follow-up with the federal partners?
No, I'm ready to disseminate it today.
Okay.
And the one after that is, are you able to apply to multiple areas of interest with different teaming arrangements? Yes. Limitations for participants that are not U.S. persons. I think Bob mentioned there's language in there about ITAR. You need to be familiar with that, and just make sure you're compliant. Same for, should I be a U.S. citizen to be eligible to be a PI? Specific requirements for lead PIs on a proposal. Do they need to have a PhD? I don't believe there's any requirement for a PhD. Is that right, Bob?
That's correct.
There's a broad set of topics this round. Are there variations in the expectation in terms of deliverables and period of performance?
I guess I'd still refer them to the solicitation. It's an 18-month period of performance. The details are behind all of the AOIs. So you probably start with making sure that your technology, in the view of the SME, is relevant to an AOI, and you at some point you're providing an end report product or service that has to have achieved all of the goals that you set out in your proposal. So those are the deliverables, and those need to be, you need to detail those in your proposal. So certainly there are, I think, broader opportunities, but you still have to be able to provide a specific product service capability that advances the technology. It's not basic research, it's applied, and again, ideally the opportunity results in this technology being commercialized and even introduced into the commercial market, or to be utilized in DoD related mission objectives.
There's one down here that might be a Chris Lockhart question, or Bob maybe, but are we allowed to budget for export controlled expenses?
I guess I'm not sure what those would be.
Perhaps legal fees?
Bob, what's your thoughts?
I think we'd want to get a little more specificity on that, but if you're just beginning that process and you want to go out and engage a law firm, I frankly don't think we should be paying for all of that exercise. And
normally that would be built into an indirect rate structure. And he says legal fees and data security measures.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, if that showed up in a budget, I would just say that would probably be something that would get looked at in review and questioned.
Yeah.
So there's another one. How should the evidence for federal partner interest to the project be provided as a separate letter attached to the white paper? Please clarify. And I think it was mentioned in previous sessions not to try to get support letters. So Bob, is there guidance on how people should show support from a federal partner beyond mentioning the discussions, the people you've talked to, and responses and their contact information?
Yeah, I think it is having that conversation and giving us the details from the conversation. And frankly, if that's, relayed in an email or a letter, I don't think that's necessarily problematic. We just didn't want to cause the parties undue burden with trying to get an LOI executed. We're trying to stop short of something that formal or technical. So, if you can evidence that conversation with the names, the dates, the details, that's great. And we do intend to follow up with that. I mean, we have put together, a team of individuals that will review these proposals, and you want to be straight up. This is technology that has been vetted with a federal partner, and you want to be able to relay how that was done and what their thoughts and considerations were. It's taken up a lot of people's time if you don't have a genuine engagement with a SME on this stuff. So, but we're also, we're trying to balance this. If we just don't want to force people into having to wait around for some formal document that evidences this. There's, we can do it other ways. And I'm happy to follow up in more detail if the person would like, and we can talk a little further with the federal partners. Each of them may have a little different twist on that, but they are all committed to making themselves available for these conversations.
So how would a federal lab play a role on the project team as a sponsor or advisor or participant or collaborator? Could some of the state funding be allocated to the federal labs for their participation or support in the project? I'm not aware of a previous project that had funding going to the federal labs for labor, but for the use of facilities or instrumentation I've seen that.
I would agree, Dave. That's what we've seen. So you could have some cost share opportunity there, but this isn't intended to specifically fund their projects.
I mean, what we're primarily looking for is that you're building a relationship internal to one of the labs that has the capability of further developing and helping their programs, so that eventually, the work that you do under OFRN could eventually be funded under a program of the federal government. So building that relationship internal to AFRL or internal to NASA or whatever, we're hoping that the technology that comes out of it, the output of the OFRN projects, can be further developed through that partnership with the federal lab, as well as, potentially in commercial markets with the industry partner. So, so that's what we've seen a lot of, is we've seen a lot of the OFRN projects then pursue funding through the SBIR or STTR program or other means or other, opportunities to come out through the federal labs. And we've seen people actually use those connections within the federal labs in their subsequent proposal efforts that have helped them gain further funding.
Yeah, good points, Dave. See another question here relative to work share percentages. We did not stipulate a fixed fee or percentage for work share or cost share. Frankly, that's a positive if you're able to achieve significant amount of that. That obviously lessens the out-of-pocket cost of the program, but it is value and can influence decision making. But we didn't want to get to the point where we were going to force everybody to follow a strict formula to cost share. So giving you some latitude, but I think it would be in your best interest to explore all of that and to obtain as much as you can.
So I think that takes us to the end of our time for this session, Bob.
So we'll follow up with questions that we did not get answered. We'll get answers out to you as soon as we can, and you can continue to send myself or Becky questions, and we'll follow up. You guys all should appreciate that we're a resource for you. We can help you even outside of the context of this round 5. We're there to assist you in your efforts to build your research capabilities, connect with industry, and that's something that we do day in and day out. Dave and I are always on the phone working with folks to help them find partners or commercialize their technology. So don't hesitate to contact us on any of those opportunities or strategies you might have. And be attentive to the schedules and the emails that we send out. Anything that we change, we'll send out a notice on that. And with that, we'll conclude today's session. And thank you very much for all your participation, and best of luck in your endeavors with this program and others. Thank you. Have a good day.